almost shifting. We got pizza, moving boxes, or else Checkers beats us. Life is rough here in the depths of space. If shit set comes a knocking, we shoot them in the face. Gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo. Hail Cargonia, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo. Alright, I got another verse. I hear a boy coming right in my instant, and it just asks me why I blew them all away. But I feel so great now with sovereign Cargonia. Every round we stand our ground. Gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo. Hail Cargonia, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo. Hail Cargonia, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo, gun cargo.
Get back to work.
I did it again. How many times am I going to do that and not remember to click out of Hail Cargonia? Oh. Well, Doc got like 2 hours of sleep last night, and instead of doing the sensible thing and not going to sleep until noon, because he doesn't have to be anywhere until 3 and then works in the evening. Instead, we're going to delve into the mystery of Roottree-mania. Because that's the sensible thing to do. So, last time we solved the family tree of the Roottrees. And had lots of fun figuring out all of the all of the spouses to all of these people, and figuring out all of the various little pieces of craziness. So if I recall, Roottree versus RR was talking about how one of the arguments was that the person committed crimes against the family and was also born out of wedlock, because technically Robert Roottree embezzled funds from Ronald Roottree and was technically born after Gwen's divorce from Wild Bill, which is unfortunate, but that's fun. And that led us to a discussion of how the Clansid Trust, set up by, I believe it was Clancy Edward and Elias Edward, had a guarantee that anyone directly related to Elias would get a share of the Roottree company profits. And one of the arguments used in court was that this situation had been used before, born out of wedlock and all of that, which happened over here with Elias Jr. and Patricia Christensen. They technically had an affair and had Samantha without being married. Patricia went off and her family hid her away. And the child was given to EC and John Miller to raise. And we've discovered that EC, Edward Clancy, is the twin brother of Clancy Edward, disowned from the original family for the crime of, well, having an unorthodox view on marriage partners at the time. So confirmed bachelor Edward Clancy and his roommate, his lifelong roommate, John Miller, raised Samantha, who, when reintroduced into the family, was denied her portion of the Clancy Trust as a compromise. And and that led to Ernie Jr., the fourth president of the company, dying in poverty because this entire branch of the family was denied access to the Clancy Trust because of the compromise, which led to Ernie Jr., president of Roottree Candy Company, only making about $3 a year because the candy company, the presidency, its salary was tied to the cost of a pack of 5 pieces candy, which meant that it was expected that the president's main source of income would be the family profit share, which is why he had mounting medical bills and eventually died of heart failure, as alluded to by Miss Deborah. Because he literally didn't have any money, which is very unfortunate for him, and that's mostly the story. Miss Samantha contracted us to figure out the entire family tree, which we did, mostly without help. And I felt very big brained for doing that. Proving that she and her father, Edward Clancy and John Miller, were legitimate Roottree family members. She is a legitimate Roottree family member. And her family are legitimate Roottree family members. And that anyone who is directly related to Elias Roottree deserves to be in the trust. Which leads us down to here. We have some digging to do, because apparently not everyone up here was completely faithful to their spouses. We also have a couple of alternate photographs for people to discover. And I think I am going to turn down the sound effects, because that rain, while cool, is just a little loud. So, let's lock in and see what happened. So, when we last left off, Chris Rafferty, or Clark Rafferty himself, the new president of the Roottree Candy Company, came to visit us. God, he just gives such dad energy. He just gives, like, such, like, the neighbor next door to the sitcom Family dad energy. Came to visit us and said, hey, good work. Really love the work that you're doing. Yeah, we all kind of agree that that Sam got the short end of the stick. But you kind of lit a steaming pile of dog crap and left it at our doorstep, because now everyone claiming to be a Roottree has come out of the woodwork, and we need to figure out who is and isn't, so that we're not giving money away to people who aren't directly related to Elias. Because we can't rewrite the Clancy Trust without all of our money disappearing. Lord Grimos, need I remind you that Clark Rafferty was caught in bed with, Kim LaRue by Jane LaRue. Who is the sister of Diamond LaRue, wife of Jim Roottree. Clark was cheating on his wife with her younger sister. Good egg, yes, but also a little bit of a dick. Had a little bit of a indiscretion. But by all accounts, has very much been a good father to Chris, and has at least been faithful so far to Kim and their daughters. Oh my God, Katrina looks so happy to be there in this picture. He's like, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be here. I'm missing tea time with Mr. Teddy Bear. And then Kim is just, yes, this is my life. I'm an adult who made adult decisions, and this is where it led. All right. And Chris gave us, or Clark gave us a bit of evidence. Today on August 3rd, 99, there was a knock on your door. Clark Rafferty LaRue, current president of the Roottrees Candy Company, explained that multiple people have come out of the woodwork to claim to be Roottrees. He has been trying to work with Sam, but she has not answered his calls. He also handed you a letter that he said you could share with Sam that said the following: to both of you, the company I hired to help us with the Clansett Trust is busy pouring through the entire family's history, as well as people that may have had contact with. That said, the family is not particularly happy with this, and they are doing their best to slow things down. Many of them are actively avoiding our interviews, because the more people in the Clansett Trust means the less money for everyone. They're greedy fuckers. Every time there's a high-profile public case, it causes headaches. So please, I don't mind if you do your research, but I ask you stop going to the press. Instead, we have a highly trained team of lawyers to back you up. We're ready and willing to verify anyone and everyone you believe could be realistically a part of a relationship that led to a birth of a new Roottree. Just tell us who to investigate by filling in sections of the tree, and we'll take the time to handle verifying that the timeline checks out. But keep in mind why we're here. If someone doesn't have a child or has already been disqualified by our lawyers, like in the case of a girl with the negative DNA test. My notebook. Not intro. Random. Highlight. There's a girl who already has a negative DNA test. There won't be a place for them on the tree. We're not just looking for affairs and infidelities. We're only looking into ones that led to potential root trees. Okay, fair enough. Some spots in the new section will be marked with a tree icon. These areas are reserved for members of the original family you filled in 8 months ago, just like last time. Be sure to use birth names for everyone you add. Married names or nicknames won't be enough. To start sorting out infidelities, I recommend you turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I love to say that's only because it would be a lot harder for a woman to hide 9 months of pregnancy and birth without the family noticing, but I can't. I'll be blunt, I'm no stranger to infidelity. I was just talking about that. I wish I could claim I was a perfect husband, but you've seen the family tree, so why pretend? Some of us learned how to wield our family name and fortune to our benefit. Consequences be damned. I can't change the past or unhurt those who I betrayed. Instead, all I can do is be honest with myself and to you, refuse to make any more mistakes, and do the best to sort out the various messes I've left behind. That's very mature. That's very mature. This man's been to therapy. So please fill in the tree. and together we can figure out how to make amends. Good luck and thank you both. I like that thought. This man sounds very mature. Sounds like he's been to therapy. Alright. Previously on The Rootttrees Are Dead. Okay. This is a new investigation with a new focus after many months of newfound interest in the Roottrees. It is recommended you try to catch up on some of what happened last time. Some web searches may yield new or different results. Some books and magazines from your previous investigation may be relevant to your new one. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of first and last names you can choose from will also contain red herrings. Not all of them will be used. Interesting. Below is a reminder of some of the most notable beats from your initial dive into the Roottree family. All evidence from before is still available, and for your evidence, any searches that did not lead to new information still function as they did during your first investigation. Entire family is a financial reliance. Yes, we talked about that. The Clancy Trust. Most of the action took place in or around Butler County. Elias, Carl, and Raina were on the cover of magazines. Other notable Roottrees such as Lauren, Miracle, and Jim had physical media such as records, books, and movies associated with them. SRWY? Okay. I don't understand these acronyms. Oh! Super Robot Wars. Okay. I'll probably have to pick that up. That sounds fun. Lauren's 2 diaries were probably the most useful resources overall, mentioning many of her relatives directly. 5 pieces, Elias's children, could be identified based on their initials of the original candy flavors. There were 5 presidents, many were featured in periodicals. I know, right? It's such a good vibe. Stephanie Jones and Brian Jones were featured in campaign posters and led to Caroline Morton's art book, which enabled you to fill out more of the tree. Many of the younger Roottrees were found through a complex rabbit hole through a conspiracy site that led to finding a searchable web address for Chris Rafferty's Lauren's grandson, Chris Raff, 75. November Roottree was really difficult to place. Her occupation could only be found via Brian Jones' company website. Ronald and his brother Robert go by Ron and Robbie, both worked on a TV show called Brother Trouble until Robbie embezzled money and fled to Paris. Ron unsuccessfully tried to have Robbie removed from the Clancy Trust. I mentioned that. Sam and her father were cryptically mentioned in the book about historical letters. Yes, there's also a few dead ends and red herrings. Alanis Herring Roottree Red. Alanis Red Herring Roottree. Who claimed he was a Roottree but was not. Family Man, a book about Elias Roottree, turned out to be propaganda and not useful. Also, we couldn't find it. Other books, historical romance novels, were not useful on their own, but could lead to more information. Caroline Morton's sculpture was not useful. So there's a lot of information here that can lead me to discovering other things, but various other things. Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. Today is August 3rd, 99. It's been 8 months since you have helped Sam Madsen with the research necessary for her book. Sam was true to her word and paid you an incredibly large sum of money. She never mentioned you by name, however, so you managed to keep a low profile. The Rootttrees, on the other hand, have not. Below is a summary of notable events since the book's release, so you can refresh your memory in a full detailed search online. Since last time. 6 pieces. It was released in February. It's been a bestseller for a few months. At the time, Carl had not yet been replaced. The Roottree Rift. 6 pieces. February. Carl not replaced. The Roottree Rift. March. Stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the release with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. Clark. Announced as the permanent successor to Carl and welcomed Sam to the family. Outside legal group to handle changes to the Clancy Trust. Heard outside legal group. 5 piece. There's a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, most dismissed as opportunists and scammers. High profile of these, by a wide margin, was a rapper named Felix Fellows. Changed his moniker to 5 Pez as a publicity move. Roottremania. In another high-profile misstep, Miracle Roottree publicly and vehemently denied that 5 Pez was a Roottree. The Rootree's legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get 5 Pez to drop his claim, and in a moment that caught what seemed the entire world by storm, the test proved that he was a Roottree. Suddenly, the world was obsessed with the Rootrees. Uh-oh. Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman who the press began to refer to as Anonymom appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised, claimed that after an affair with a Roottree led the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Roottree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Roottree and therefore entitled to a share of the trust. No one knew it at the time, but this would turn out to be the latest chapter in the Rootreemania saga. As more and more of Anonymom's story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5 pieces in nearly every significant way. The court of public opinion began to turn, confirming the world's suspicions. DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, proved the daughter was not a Roottree. The final events caused public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations from an entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or an attempt to fraud. Things got a bit ugly, and the fun of Rootreemania seemed to disappear overnight. Now, a month later, it feels like a distant memory. Okay. Let's get back to the internet. That sounds so good. Alright. Let's just start with that. Okay. Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family by Sam Madsen was released in '99, perhaps assisted by its still relatively recent plane crash shot to the top of the charts. Reviews were mixed, and its time of the bestseller was limited to about 2 months. Most reviewers agree that the core of the book, about Sam's fathers and struggles they faced, was compelling, and that the takedown of the hypocrisy of Elias Roottree was deserved. However, many took umbrage with the timing of the release and the tone of the book, which seemed vindictive. Followed from the book, 6 pieces book. Follow the book led to the Roottree company scrambling to release a statement, and due to a conflict in leadership, famously released multiple conflicting statements over 3 days. The most confusing was referenced in popular culture due to a late-night sketch about indecisionitis. But more traditional analysts have been calling it the Roottree rift. A few months later, due to Roottree-mania, the book re-entered the charts and sold even better the first time. So let's go to the public library. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. And we've got some evidence. Sam Madsen's book was released earlier this year. Details the truth about Elias Roottree as well as Sam's father, Edward Clancy Roottree, and John Miller. You've helped verify your story, so much of the book's core contents are familiar to you. That said, Sam has some sections on other family secrets and rumors. Much of it doesn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it is new to you and may be important to your new search. These sections have been added to your notes. Well. Hello. Oh, I can move the evidence around. That's so good. Look, it alludes to the early 90s, or to 90s internet. Sam's book has a few different passages about her own history and the company and the rumors of gossip she collected about during that tenure. She ran the farm from a period starting around 68 after the death of Elias until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 84. Most of the relevant rumors coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson. Took over in president at blah. Sam was very much not a fan of Guy, and according to 6 Pieces, it was an open secret within the family that Guy was very much not a fan of the remaining faithful to his wife. Many of their hires at the time were young single women, and Guy often spent a lavish amount of money on private parties. And how very corporate of you. This is about 20 years ago, and Sam warns that most of all of it is hearsay. Still, you find the following information that may be relevant. One of Sam's farm supervisors is named Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonelli's met her daughter at one of Guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to pregnancy. Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Remembers that her daughter showed up with Guy, didn't feel comfortable switching partners. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met. Elizabeth worked for Sam. Elizabeth worked for Sam on the farm. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never saw. And the daughter worked as Guy's secretary. Guy apparently had the daughter at a party. Oh, okay. Ooh, that sounds very Weinstein. Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding to markets previously untapped by the Roottrees. However, when he went on a trip overseas that were often a few weeks at a time, Guy was known for spending more time and money on unofficial business than on meetings with distributors and manufacturers. It said he bribed at least one politician to open a factory in Brazil. That's a paragraph. There's also a section where Sam speculates that Elias may have also cheated on Gwyneth. Gwyneth was always much kinder to Sam than Elias was, and was the first to invite Sam to family events. While she has no hard evidence, Sam always gets the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back to the family using some kind of leverage, instead of it being the natural course of events. She mentioned that Elias and Gwyneth were known to loudly argue, sometimes about another woman. Sam says her son Ernie once asked her, "Who's Beth?" Beth? Because he overheard them yelling about someone with that name. As far as Sam knows, Elias once had a secretary named Elizabeth. Oh. Different from the farm. Alright. So... let's go back to public search. Antonelli's. Local research, let's go to periodicals. Search periodicals, Butler County Times. Italian restaurant has been in Butler County Times twice. Most recent when it closed in '92. The owner, Rochelle Zimmer, sold the land and the building was on, and the article was unsure if the restaurant would move to another location or if she would retire. Many years before that, there was a puff piece on Valentine's Day, 78, that asked recently married residents of Butler County how they met. Christine Garland responded. She and her husband Steve, who was from a chef at Antonelli's, met years ago when she delivered produce from her mother's farm. Farm. Steve used to work extra hours just to be there during hair deliveries. Although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers, they reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. Now she has a bun in the oven, and they're both working as much as they can. She's a secretary, but went back to delivering produce on weekends. Save up to move to Boston, open their own restaurants. I just want to highlight that. Interesting. Periodicals. Rochelle and her husband Mark are mentioned a few times. And both were local business owners. Rochelle's owned Antonelli's and a local store called Bookmarks. When he was sued by Steve Garland. And what did we learn from the first time? Everything mentioned has some shit to it. Kitchen Tales is a story-based recipe book credited to Mark Zimmer. Successor was featured on a morning talk show. Books released before the internet was widespread, so mentions were rare. One book collector states publishers were unprepared for the demand and there is no second printing. It's unusual to find a copy in the wild. An alternative medicine website focuses on cooking with natural ingredients. Mentions one of the Kitchen Tales recipes uses salt water. The owner of the site included a scan of that recipe added to your evidence. You switch the salt water out for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater. It tastes great. Okay. I want to search for Steve Garland, periodicals, search periodicals. Mentioned a couple of articles. First was an article by I met his wife Christine when they worked at Antonelli's. Second was from months later in September. Listening to his weekend cooking classes. Gourmet for the groovy. The blurb mentions that he'd been giving lessons from his home kitchen for the last month so that he can keep an eye on his son. Third was from 91, local author sued by former Butler County resident. Seems that the local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. His recipe book was partially plagiarized from recipes Steve Garland would give to his students during his cooking lessons before he moved. Article mentions that although the recipes are hard to copyright, Garland accompanied each recipe with a short fiction about how he learned it. These usually doubled as a way to remember certain ingredients. Garland's bean salad, for example, involved making a trade with a gnome for some magic beans. Apparently, these stories were found word for word in Zimmer's cookbook, in addition to additional stories that followed in the same format. Okay. Public library. Mark Zimmer. Kitchen Tales. Out of print. Re-released as Garnishing the Truth. Recipe book that contains stories. What? Cookbook credited to Garland and Zimmer, release is actually quite successful. How the duo appeared to promote it on a daytime talk show host. Multiple printing since, according to a book review, recipes are my stories. Says it seems perfect to learn with the entire family. Huh. Haha. The introduction to this book is a series of acknowledgments from Steve. First is, Christine, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to me. You are the apple of my pie. Hey, what's up, Zirig? Your support means the world to me. Second is to James and Robert. You're both amazing men and incredible chefs. I guess I'm a good teacher. Finalist to Mark Zimmer. You proved my storytelling approach to recipes could be popular. Without you, this book couldn't exist. Forward by Mark Zimmer. I first met Steve in '78, where he taught a cooking class. Next time I saw him was over a decade later, when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. Yes, really. So you might wonder what I'm doing with this introduction. Well, it turns out that Steve and I had more in common than we thought. Instead of settling in court, we settled it at McCarran's Brewhouse over a game of darts. They said they'd give us the first drink on the night free for an entire year for mentioning them. By the end of the game, he and I agreed we'd both rather make a ton of money together than spend a ton of money on lawyers. It's pretty rare you meet your best friend so late in life, but I decided to retire. I moved to Boston just so we could hang out. So if you're browsing this book in the bookstore, please buy our book. We need more money for when the free beer runs out, and the bookstore probably could use the sale. Okay, that's cute. That's cute. Brewpub in Boston, they have a website. Apparently, the bar has been around a long time. A list of famous people who've had a drink there, including former President of the United States, not the Roottree Company, Kennedy. There's also a few listings of television shows and books have been mentioned, McCarran's, as well as how they come up. One of them is Garnishing the Truth, which the site has this to say about. Local regular Stevie G wrote a book about food. We prefer cocktails, but he gave us a shout out, and we ain't gonna say no to free press. So grab a bite at his kid's joint Fried Eye, and then swing by to meet him for a drink. Fried Eye is a popular this is quite the rabbit hole. Is a popular restaurant in Boston. They don't have a website, but many locals seem to mention them in various places. One more in-depth review explains that it's not a full restaurant, just a front door and a very small interior with a window. Unusually, the restaurant only serves vegetables, but lots of reviews say that in spite of that, it's delicious. As someone who has made ratatouille, or rather, technically confit bialdi, which uses all of the same ingredients in a different preparation, vegetables are delicious. God, I could go for some roasted squash right about now. Ooh. You also find a short story about it listed on a website called My Boston Homepage. Whoever runs this page seems to just link to random sites related to Boston, telling personal anecdotes related to Boston, and give their relatively short opinions on things in Boston. It's very unorganized. It has this to say about Friday. Wicked overrated. I saw it in Chef's Signature, so I went there, and there was a huge line, and they didn't have a single meat dish. What's even the point? Asshole. It's a magazine related to food and trendy restaurants. Covers subjects all over the United States. Oh God, that printer sound is such a endorphin rush. Such a dopamine hit. This is Chef's Signature, discovered Friday, less than a year ago, right around the time you were doing your initial investigation. Each article in Chef's Signature tends to focus on a restaurant. Like the magazine names implies, each restaurant lists the one main dish that it is known for is a samosa cone. That sounds delicious. I wonder if this is also in here. Nothing. Only one Antonelli has there been. It's a Antonelli's Attic, their dessert restaurant that serves various meat dishes. Meant to invoke nectar parts of your house. Their signature dish, cobweb cobbler, which uses candy floss atop a blackberry pie. So they call it dust bowl. Served as a mason jar, a fairly crowned cookie. Okay, clever. Antonelli's spider search. Oh damn. I want to know what this is. I want to know what this is. Okay, I think we've explored all of that. Okay. That's just a picture of bread. Okay. Kitchen Tales is a book that combines recipes and stories. It had mild popularity but seems to disappear from online marketplaces in '92. You found a scan from one story on a website. It demonstrates how to bake the plated loaf. Well, the family did nothing but teleport bread for the last 3 days. For years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. They grew their friendship, compared recipes, and combined knowledge. She loved his salt and pepper beard. He adored her rosemary cheeks. God, Okay. They thought sweetly about one another, but he was one day whisked away, conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. The recipe asked the reader to combine flour, yeast, sugar, olive oil, rosemary, combine the salt and water together, and add the mixture and whisk until the dough begins to form. It was 10 to 12 years later that they met again, seemingly by fate. Flora's unique dough had earned her position as the king's professional baker. Yates had found success as well. He baked for the kingdom's 45 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift, 450 unbaked loaves, and were sent to the palace bakery to teach a method that required no kneading. Allowed the dough to proof for 10 to 12 hours. Spread it out, let it sit for 45 minutes on a floured baking sheet, no kneading. Prepare the Dutch oven and preheat to 450. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She felt as if she was torn in two. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already prepared buns for the palace's ovens. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but it was struck her fear she'd been unable to bake with her. She'd faced retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough, cut the dough in 2 equal pieces, and lightly sprinkled salt on top of only one of them. Yates eased her pain. He insisted she had no obligation to prepare for a return. She thought impossible, but she shared her fear of retribution. He knew that if they did not solve her predicament, they'd miss their final chance to bake together. In the end, instead of wallowing in the present, they worked together to shape the future. They twisted and entwined their doughs and baked them as one. Thus was joined the plated loaf. Word quickly spread of the new delight. The king's decree on royal parchment was that it would be considered a delicacy. Roll and twist the pieces to entwine them, then take the twist and wrap around the inside of the Dutch oven, atop parchment from outside to make an inward spiral. Bankrolled by the king, Flora and Yates spent their days baking together. They traveled for 45 years, then settled down for 15 more. Their souls were golden, no regrets, baked for 45, remove lid, observed crust golden brown. Could take up to 15. This is a very interesting recipe. I have no idea what the evidence could be. Anyway, Chef's Signature, a nationally published magazine targeted towards fans of unusual. Alrighty. Chef's Signature. You have James and Robert Garland on the cover of the issue. The brothers own a small walk-up window in Boston called Fried Eye, a play on their tie-dye shirts that the servers wear that exclusively serves vegetarian dishes. Most of the offerings are heavily inspired by powerful spices of Thai and Indian food. Signature dish is the samosa cone. Here we go. Which from a distance somewhat resembles a traditional ice cream, complete with waffle pattern. Instead, it contains fried potatoes, pureed peas, carrots, and a special ginger-based sauce. I want to try this. That sounds amazing. Robert, who is 3 years younger than James, jokes that although their age difference has left him delegated to wear the sous chef jacket his whole life, he doesn't mind. James answers most of the interviewer's questions. James credits his love for food and culinary skills to their upbringing. Most kids hate vegetables growing up, but they don't have parents like we did. My father was a chef and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. I don't have any memories of the farm or anything like that since we moved here before I could even talk. But they told me stories. My dad's a great storyteller. He even wrote a book that partially helped fund Fried Eye. When we moved, they were looking to open their own restaurant together. Unfortunately, they never got it off the ground. His line cook gig ended up being less temporary than he hoped, and she had to go back to work as a secretary even after Robert was born. James is answering. James is this. Okay. James is the older. Okay. Before we were old enough to go to school, we spent our days with our aunt. In the diner where he worked, Dad had no room for experimenting, so he'd exercise his skills at home on his days off. We'd all go shopping and cook as a family on those days, and even though we were hyper kids running around and causing a ruckus, those were some of our family's favorite memories since we were all together. Mom always has an eye for the best vegetables and for him to work with, and she did her best to pass that on to us. According to the article, their parents, who have now retired, visit Friday often. They even have a signature dessert, the Sistine Apple. Apple pie has always been my mom's favorite, and my dad has always had this stupid line he used to make her laugh involving apple pie. Most people realize it's a Sistine Chapel pun and assume that's all there is to it. But it's actually secretly named after them, sort of. Huh. Spider search. Yeah. Okay. That was a huge Jesus Christ. I don't even know where to start right now. I think I'm just going to go down the list. What was this? The Roottree Rift. There are too many double letters in that name. 3 press releases from... Okay, that was my AC. Jesus Christ. 3 press releases from the Roottree Candy Company after the release of 6 pieces. Referred to as the Roottree Rift due to clear conflicts between them. First was clearly standard. Stated that there was no president of the Roottree Company, but the entire family was made aware of the release of the book, that they would be meeting as soon as possible. Only then they could verify the legitimacy of the claims it raised and decide the next steps. Second release was emailed to business newspapers 3 hours later and announced that after a vote, Ron Roottree would be taking over as temporary interim president. hours later, announced Ron Roottree would be taking over as president. It also went on to state that Ron was aware of the book, had verified the claims within, and would be looking into compensating Ms. Madison and her family immediately. The stated company lawyers would be taking immediate steps for the family to revisit the claims of job concerns to make sure immediate steps to make sure nothing like this happened again. It was quickly clear to business reporters and analysts at the time between the two presses releases would not have been logistically sufficient to gather a majority of the family, even using conference calls. This was reported on many news channels, and a third, much shorter press release came the next day, claimed that a draft of the announcement had been made. Clark Rafferty and Ron Roottree were taking over the first joint presidents. It was also stated that any compensation planned would be based on a stringent verification process. Okay. Ron. Okay. Okay. I like the story of his wife. It's pretty funny. Okay. That's fun. Notable events. Clark. Clark is the new president. This does not include Root, which appears to have its own leadership. In early March, about 5 months ago, it was announced both Clark and Ron would take over what was essentially described as a traditional period. About 2 weeks later, company released a statement that thanked Ron for his work. Announced that Clark was the new permanent president. Thanked Ron. Most of the information about Clark you already knew. Many descriptions of him tend to focus on his advertising career, and his mother was Lauren Roottree. Few seem to touch on his complex and volatile marital history. Since taking over, tried to remain out of the spotlight, but did have one notable foray into the public eye. Gained a lot of support when his first move was a statement in favor of accepting Sam and her family into the trust. Also served as an announcement that the Clancy Trust would no longer be handled by anyone in the family. Smart man. There's an older version. Show older. Oh, that's clever. That's clever. Page. Announced as president during the Roottree Rift. But the next press release immediately reversed the announcement and said Ron and Clark would both take over. Talking about this guy? A few weeks later, Ron was dropped from the title entirely. There are hundreds of results about this development. Most articles are retelling the basics. Some veer into heavy speculation based on an article about Ron in Business Watch. Ron also has done some interviews saying that the truth of what went on behind the scenes is not something we should discuss. Hopes to release a movie about it someday. About 3 weeks ago, Ron's mother died in Paris. Rest in peace. He and Robbie seemingly have made amends. Excuse me. Search periodicals. Business Watch. An article about 2 months after the Roottree. What really happened with Roottree? Article mentions that nobody from Roottree that they reached out to was willing to go on the record. Instead, timeline events has been constructed for public record, accidental leaks, and a source on the inside. The only parts that are new to you are also the most vague parts, one supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. Timeline says that the entire family actually held a preliminary vote after Carl Roottree died, but before the release of 6 pieces, and decided they want Ron Roottree to take over because of experience running the productions. He was well-known and well-respected Roottree. But Rom seemed too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would gut the Clancy Trust to remove Robbie. Family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that could risk their wealth. They stalled, and Ron became frustrated with the delay. When 6 pieces came out, he saw his chance to force action while the family was in the limelight, and released the press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling faster. Ooh. Just highlighting semi-important information. It's caused chaos within the family. They tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as co-president with Clark, but according to Business Watch's source, Ron was impossible to deal with. Seemed like he was unwilling to protect the Clancy Trust, eventually let him go. After that, the role passed solely to Clark, which nobody was excited about but seemed like the safest choice. Interesting. Okay. Alright, let's get into some notable now. No, damn it. There we go. Felix Fellows is a rapper who found some recent radio play after being publicly confirmed as a long-lost Roottree and entitled to part of their fortune. His alias 5-Piece play is a play on 5 pieces. An article on a website known for their particularly harsh reviews of modern music gives his most recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7 for whatever reason, with the headline, "More poser than my action figure collection." Review mentions his real name is David. He used to go by Dirte Davy. The author rues the fact that his rebranding was a blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. She overdosed when he was 16. Apparently, only one of the songs on the album is new. The others were rewritten to turn blatant references to sex, drugs, and violence into clumsy euphemisms. His rise to prominence was kickstarted when he appeared on a few months ago on the cover of News Time, holding a photo of his mother with Guy Hutchinson. At first, the Roottree company denied it. Miracle even appeared on the same magazine a week later. But since then, they've backtracked and publicly welcomed to the family. Their press, at least at the time, stated that the evidence confirmed the story. Ahaha! New periodical. Major news. Periodical releases new issue every week. Rapper 5-Piece, famously on the cover, claiming to be a Roottree. Appeared to be fan punching to get news about the ongoing Roottree saga. They reported record subscriber numbers during this time, which lasted until the end of Rootreemania, when the world generally stopped paying more attention and went on reporting traditional news. Periodical search. Let's search for Felix Fellows. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. More pictures. Miracle. Bolson. All right. God. Yeah, no, this reminds me so much. They did a really good job. Of capturing the late 90s, early 2000s white wannabe rapper. Oh God, that's good. Yes, that's the face of a guy who is saying, I am definitely faithful to my wife. Okay, Felix appears on the cover of News Time holding the face of a man telling his mistress how much he is going to take care of her once he leaves his wife. Yep. Cover holding a photo of his mother and Guy. Article concerns his insistence that his father is Guy. Story is dramatic and sensational. Immediately dismissed his faith until a DNA test proved that he was related to Guy. 5P says that his mother, Joanna, was Zach Morton's secretary until he retired. Then Guy, Hudson's secretary for only 1 or 2 weeks before she quit. First few weeks that he was president. His parents divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Felix and his mother then moved to Portland because she was afraid for her and her son's life. He grew up with her until she was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store where she worked. Next morning, they found her dead from an overdose in her car. She had stolen all of the cash from the drawer and spent it on heroin. Felix went through her belongings. The only things he had to remember her by was a hairbrush she always used, some photos, and a stuffed animal from her childhood. But then he found a box hidden in the back of her closet. Inside were love letters and photos related to Guy, as well as letters from his father containing threats. He threw it all away, with the exception of the one photo he appears with on the cover of News Time. He says it was the only one where they were dressed. I need a minute. Oh God. Oh, that's good. The only one not from the affair itself. The picture is shown in full inside the magazine and was added to the evidence. Magazine also includes some additional history about 5P's career. We are an hour and a half into this, and I have not put a single name on the conspiracy board. Felix Fellows was born to Riley and Joanna Fellows. But never rapped without a moniker. He tried to find success by opening for other artists, even selling CDs on the street corners of Portland. He only had started going by 5 to harness the power of his lineage. Writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottree company as a secretary during some time in the mid-70s. This also confirms that he died of drug overdose. When Felix went to foster care soon after, they were unable to find his father. Also reached out to the Roottree company, but at the moment, Cammy's bank statement was since the release of the Roottree as false and central claims, none of them factual. Nearly all have been knowingly dishonest. We encourage individuals to reach out to us in an official capacity as opposed to attempting to use name for media publicity. I want to do a search really quick. Birth name. Very good. Oh, I thought I was going to be clever. Okay, where's Guy? Look at that smug ass face. Okay, thank you for being notable. Oh, Felix, no. David. Okay. This is funny. Oh shit. Oh gosh. Her most recent job was working at a video rental place. So in broad definitions, you could call that a cashier. Third president. I just want to really quickly. So, this is Roottrees that are married that do not have children. Could it be Stephanie over here? Could it be Chris and Lisa? No. No, because they're still in college. I haven't really heard anything about Miracle, but the only person who's really having a baby right now is Stephanie. Stephanie Jones. What the fuck? I have no idea how to find out her name. Okay. Well, Miracle, let's see what you have to say about this bullshit. Miracle Roottree appeared on the cover of Newstime shortly after 5P's that he vehemently denied he was a Roottree. It was from before the test. Miracle doesn't focus much on the details of accusations regarding his mother and Guy. Comes across as exhausted at all the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the character of those who feels are attacking his family. Starts with 6 pieces. He says that although most of the book was based in fact, it left out anything that wouldn't fit the agenda. Points out Sam's daughter still earns a generous salary from overseeing the farm division of the Roottree, that Sam did the same before her, that Sam's family was not destitute, and that really it was her son who chose to take on a job with no salary. You seem like an asshole, old man. That's not very cash money of you, Mr. Jesus. He claims that though they didn't have to, the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting that it was the right thing to do. Of course you voted over it. Miracle also says that the story about his father, Elias, shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Elias gave him a simple ultimatum: stop sinning or be disavowed. Miracle says it was EC's own choice. There we go. Claiming that EC was sinning. Great projection there, buddy. Own choice that allowed allowing him to earn food and shelter on the company's dime was a kindness, especially considering that he and John continued to live together. Miracle then pivots to the fallout of 6 pieces. He recounts a deluge of claims that the Clancy trust that the family has been subjected to. He doesn't cite any statistics, but every time someone comes forward, the family devolves to arguments. He's had to hire an outside legal team to help, but so far every case has been demonstrably, laughably false. All they do is tarnish his family's reputation, focuses on 5P's, who appeared on news time before him, calls him a grifter and a delinquent, and says he is using the name and products to sell filth to the masses. All of the accusations, he says, this is the most dangerous because it exposes the world to hatred. Cites 5P's lyrics as violent, sexist, and ungodly, and prays the boy will repent, retract his lies, and find religion. Lastly, he turns to the future. Miracle states that those that wish to hear the true story can join him on his farewell tour this upcoming fall. The Miracles Roottree are planning on touring the country's churches one last time And now that at 71, Miracle is the oldest living root tree. While he plans to continue preaching at his own church in Butler County after the tour, this is your last chance to hear the truth from the man with the most complete recollection of America's most notable families in your hometown. Mentions that his son, Junior, did not wish to comment on the statement from Clark Rafferty LaRue, although the Roottrees law firm, Miracle does not speak for the entire family. We're working carefully on a plan to definitively disprove any claims of infidelity in our family's past. The article does not refute Miracle's claim that he's the oldest living root tree, despite Sam being born a year before him. Asshole. It was unclear if Miracle made up the claim out of ignorance or spite. Okay, fair enough. Archive evidence. Cool. Nice. Okay. Oh, 1921. I wonder who could have had an affair in 1921. Why do I have a feeling that Miracle Root Tree is going to be this one right here? Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. At 71. At 71. $99 minus 71. 28. Okay, so he was born in 1928. $49 minus 28. 21. It is entirely possible that Miracle Root Tree could be this person. And if that's true, that's going to be fucking hilarious. That's going to be hilarious. Oh, Miracle, you fucking asshole. Oh, God. How I want him to be right there. I want him to be there so hard. Oh god, like the trope is right there. The trope is right there. Okay, so let's go back to my notes really quick. Antonelli's. Six pieces. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met. But worked as one of Guy's secretaries. A caterer at a local... Okay. Elizabeth. I was onto something there. Okay, this is... I already searched Steve Garland and all that shit. I don't know Joanna's name. Oh. Roottremania immediately followed the announcement of the rapper Five Piece was actually Roottree. Collectively, popular culture seemed to focus on the Roottree family and Five Piece. A few weeks before everything somersaulted and society moved on. Because of the Five Piece saga, an underlying third line to how pop culture treated Rootmania was an excuse for everyday people to claim they were also Rootrees. Daytime shows had I'm a Secret Roottree episodes, late night hosts and guests made jokes about other lost family members. There was a widely shared website where you could fill in your own name and find out if you were a secret Roottree. You submitted your name and simply said no with an image of Clark Rafferty giving you the finger. Lasted a few weeks, just long enough for 6 pieces to re-enter the charts, triggering new printings of other Roottree related media, including Lauren's Diaries, VHS releases of Gwen's Own Bluevies, as well as countless other unauthorized biographies, which were mostly seemed to attempt to capitalize on the Roottree sisters, Carl and Brenda. Re-releases were too late to successfully capitalize on or extend the craze. As a result, most of them were failures, and countless novelty shirts that had variations of I'm a secret Roottree became immediately unfashionable, though some people still wear them ironically. Alrighty. That's a lot of reading. Second high-profile case and potential new Roottree. Instead of claiming, she claimed she'd slept with Guy, and her daughter was a Roottree. Came during the height of Mania. Began with a brief TV interview, appeared in shadows and disguised voice. Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree seemed to spring up organically because no one knew how to refer to her. The day after the News Time article, Sam Madsen publicly supported Anonymom due to some parts of the story she found particularly credible. With the momentum of Sam's endorsement, Anonymom went on a media blitz. Ultimately, this backfired. As more details came out, people became skeptical in her story due to extreme similarity. Accusation even included many of the same details of his mother's story. This included her job secretary and the time period. After fumbling the 5-piece After fumbling the 5-piece story so publicly, Rootrees were more prepared. Within a week, a DNA test proved Anonymom's daughter could not be related to the Rootrees. This was announced as a joint press conference with lawyers representing both Anonymom and the Rootrees. Each party ensured their respective clients provided accurate samples. Immediately after the negative results were released, many of those who had already been skeptical felt vindicated. Others who had built up hope that history could repeat itself after 5-piece felt duped. Many people suspected the whole affair had been a hoax to gain fame and money. Many demanded Anonymom held accountable, and some people even began to attempt to track down her true identity. Felt pressured to put out a second statement, trying to curb some of the backlash. Even going so far as to say, though it was scientifically proven that Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, does not mean her mother and Guy were not involved in an affair. She has every right to make her claim, as it has been verified that her stories about Guy Hutchinson were not exaggerations. Please leave their family alone. Very professional, and very neutral, given the fact that it is almost certain that Anonymom did have an affair with Guy. It just didn't result in a child. Most people claim this high-profile anticlimax and public splash cash was the beginning of end for the Roottrees. Much of the fun was the shared fascination about secret Roottrees. Others think, just like any fad, it ran its course. Regardless, this final notable event related to the release of 6 pieces, and things soon went back to normal. Jane Doe Roottree is completely eliminated as a new Roottree by the company lawyers, who are the ones verifying your work. Anonymous affair does not appear on the tree. Okay, so Anonymom is not any of this. Delete the page. There's too many Beths. Could be Beth, could be Elizabeth, could be Mary Beth. Okay, where? Yeah, okay. I did! Okay, no I didn't. Fuck me. Hello, Rimward. I'm very tired. Root of All Evil is 5 Pieces' debut album, I'm Searching Down Cheaters. According to the various sources, their album is mostly material that 5 Piece recorded for his mixtapes before he became notable, but re-recorded with lyrical differences and professional production. All Your Problems was the first and only single released. After dropping the single, announced he'd retained the infamous celebrity lawyer Stevie Wittek to sue his family. It doesn't seem like he's followed through. At first, the single didn't make much of a splash, but Whitlock, known for publicity stunts, paid thousands of teenagers a few dollars an hour to call and request the video on MTV, which increased its profile. MTV eventually caught on and banned the video altogether, which in turn received national news coverage and made the song even more popular. The track is the only new song on the album. Subject matters of the song points out the hypocrisy of those who claim money is evil. He points out that the only people who think that money is evil are those that have it, those that can afford not to be greedy. In the song, 5 Piece generally talks about taking the Roottree's wealth due to it being his birthright, giving it to those who need it most. Find a copy of the song on a suspicious-looking website. Stay away from those file-sharing sites like Morpheus or Napster or LimeWire or Kazaa. Oh, don't download this song. Even Lars Ulrich knows it's wrong. Go and buy the CD like you know that you should. Oh, don't download this song. Stevie is a lawyer with a history of publicity stunts and grandstands. He man wrapped quite a few legal victories for C-list celebrities and athletes. He became famous in the mid-'80s, suing a multinational sandwich company whose 12-inch subs were actually an average of 11.5 inches. I argue that since the company sold 1 bagel sandwiches per year. That's enough missing sandwich to make a sub long enough span from New York to L.A. The jury awarded her a paltry $5,000, but the news coverage for her crusade turned out to be priceless. Eh. That's what I did. Okay. We got all your problems. Lyrics.
Attention, attention, Roottrees. This is 5-piece coming at you from the real world. You know, the place you ain't ever lived in.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Root of all your
Man,
problems.
y'all are hypocrites, sitting back in your massive estates, built from the cash that your ancestors gave you, acting like you somehow deserve it, based on your family's creations. Yo,
But looky here, sonny, don't you come for our money, or you might burn bright in hellfire someday, like that Madsen chick.
and her two dads. My pappy's cleansing trust should keep you away. Yo, it's disturbing, catching a sermon from a geezer who's never known hurt, but blurts out these claims that somehow we're sinners, cause we didn't earn it. When all of your worth that came free with your name, you expect me to treat your lectures on greed as some expert creed from he without blame. Out instead, I tell
God, this
other
is like
cheats
some
to spread
off-brand
when you
freaking
kiss your
Eminem
with an
diss
aim.
track.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle. So once more with passion, tell this poor tragic orphan how your mansions and Porsches are actually horrible.
How I'm better off penniless, grasping for morsels. I wanted my share.
That's actually extortion. With your candy ass name, synonymous with sweets. Oh, you wanna call me classless? I'm gangster from Portland, but I play that game. I came up on the streets. The only streets you reppin' are Park Place and Boardwalk. Hypocrisy, monopoly is toppling. When I knock, have G's.
Top off my pockets, please.
Cause the same God that got to steal my mom from me is what he wants, right? For you to live in poverty. And if you're suddenly not eager to unhand that fortune, that's unfortunate. I guess I'm gonna have to take my portion, and I'll do it all legally. Class action, courtrooms, decorum. I'm way past your fancy ass dormant.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Bring the choir in.
You say money is the root of all your
Like,
problems. Let me
actually pretty freaking good.
You say money is the root of all
I'm like
Let me take those problems away.
I'm legitimately impressed with the quality of original music for this.
Just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle. Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle.
Not bad. Not bad indeed. Okay. Duck. Okay, fair enough. Okay. After the release of 6 Pieces, Caroline did a television interview. Someone uploaded a partial transcript of that interview on the television section of the messaging community. Transcript is only her answers and it's missing the questions. Somewhat confusing regarding the experience, but does give you a bit more history about Caroline and some of the family members. 40. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, that tickles me. That tickles me. Ah. For those of you who don't know, there's a famous investigative journalism show called 60 Minutes in real life. Parody 45 Minutes. Thanks for having me. I never really fit into the family, so it didn't surprise me. She could have put me in if she wanted to talk to me about the time during my activism days when I almost got arrested for stealing spark plugs out of all her tractors, but I don't really think it fits her narrative. So she wasn't mentioned in the book, and she snuck onto the Roottree farm. I'm sorry, the Anderson farm. Yeah, 60 Minutes is still on the show, is still on the air. And stole all the spark plugs. They never tried to kick me out or send me to live on a farm, if that's what you mean. But I was already pretty unpopular, and once everyone learned I divorced my husband, few people paying attention to me. About Eloise, she's my wife, not legally, but we've been together for half our lives. Call it what it is. I was 20 and just had my daughter. I hate to look back on the times because I was a terrible mother the first few years. I left my daughter with my ex-husband and followed Guy on a private jet to Europe. He lost a tooth and a client. I found love and a better understanding of who I was. Still, in our family's eyes, the strips were somewhat more acceptable. Explain that. What do you think? But I don't really think that fit the narrative. Did they ever really accept you? Yes and no. Who is Eloise? She's my wife. Explain that. What do you... Did he get along with Guy? No, I couldn't stand him. Our family wrote off his behavior like he was some big fan of romance or women. But he didn't like the entire woman. It was doubly awkward for me because he was more supportive than most. I slowly figured out it was because he assumed I would be as shallow as he was. Tell me about his work ethic. He was a workaholic. He seemed nice enough and did a good job. I didn't know him that well. That was one of Sam's problems with our family. None of us did except Carl. Honestly, I get why she's pissed. Tell us about Carl. I'd rather not speak ill of the dead, not unless you want to know more stories about Guy. With Carl, though, all I can say is we used to be friends before they sent him to private school. He came back a lot judgier. It made sense when they made him president. He was a lot like my father after they disciplined the fun out of him. After I started protesting the farms, he stopped returning my calls. Oh, he's harder to label. When I was a teenager, he was basically drunk or high or both. All the time. He actually used to sell me pot. His problems with women were different than guys. But he never really judged me. I guess he knew it would be pretty hypocritical to judge anyone for anything. Back when he was destructively unreliable in every way, but nowadays, he's just kind of boring and old. I prefer that to how he used to be, and to Guy and Carl. But it's a cautionary tale. I hope I'm never that boring and old. I want to take a look at something really quick. Remember what I said about the eyes? Was Clark selling pot to Carolyn? Because this is Clark, and that's Carolyn. He does look older than her. Actually kind of explains how he cheated on his wife with her sister. Alright, duck. Alright, fine. If this is just gonna be like retreading old stuff, that's kind of silly. Let me just... Since Brian Jones has been busy updating Stephanie Jones's campaign website, 2 new sections exist. First is baby photo. There you see a picture of their new daughter in the hospital. According to the site, our daughter is named after her grandmother, which ended up being very fitting. Continued born the night before Christmas. Second is what's next. There's not much on the substance of there right now, but it lists some small accomplishments and finishes with the recent rise in popularity and controversy surrounding my extended family. There has been some extra attention on me. Stay tuned for announcements in the coming months about how I plan to use this publicity to accomplish bigger and better things. Brian Jones posted this photo of his family together in the hospital following the birth of their newborn girl. His daughter is wearing an adorable little Santa hat, and his wife Stephanie is giving her signature thumbs up from her campaign literature. Look at that potato. I honestly just wanted to frickin' do this. Just to fill in some shit. Grandmother. Is it Brian Jones's grandmother? Eight months out of date. Thank you. Oh, Carolyn. Okay, 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 okay. I get it. I get it. Unknown occupation. Baby. Carol. I see. I see. Hey,
Has
Sam.
Clark reached out to you? Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life. 3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be Roottrees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news. I felt terrible. So I began helping the others. Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me. I went to the media prematurely. I admit my mistake there. But the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But you're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down. The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
You bitch. This photo was given to you by Sam Madsen. A woman named Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he thinks he's a root tree. Details of this case can be found in your evidence. Stuart is the older boy wearing a vest. The woman in the photo is Mary Beth Clementine, a singer who may have had an affair. Boom. Vindication. I have a feeling this orange is going to be, No, it's a clementine. It's a very specific kind of fruit. Okay, the entire... Regina came to think... claimed that her husband confesses he thinks he's a root tree. Stuart is the older boy wearing the vest. Is Mary Beth. From 6 pieces at Prodigy to... Okay, I'm just gonna delete this Stephanie page because she's solved. Girl with the negative DNA test, that's Anonymom. Six pieces. Genealogy Genie. This is all the information I have on Regina Clementine niece Salazar from New Orleans and her husband Stuart. Apparently the Roottree lawyers went after her since then. By then I received her letters and called her. She told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who is a police officer and never knew his father, told her he thought he might be a root tree. But he's estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. So Regina Clementine said her husband thinks he might be a root tree. And he's estranged, didn't want to pursue it. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure, but she has some pretty credible facts. Some of it I've been able to confirm. Stuart's mother is Mary Beth Clementine. Well-known singer. '30s and '50s, went to a lot of churches. Big proponent of adoption. A I know for a fact she came to Butler County a few times. I remember seeing her, and Regina said that Stewart told her they were always spending a lot of time at Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove that she's who she says she is. I've attached it to the email. Please consider saving a tree and not printing this email. Elizabeth Farrow. Partial staff recordings to access Sam Madsen. It's cross-referenced by Sam Madsen. The records are based on old tax mailing information and only detail the employees that work directly for Roottree in their corporate office. Many laborers on their farms and factories are not listed. Not sure how helpful it'll be except for cross-referencing guys, secretaries, and visits overseas. Spider searching these people likely just because they're listed in these books will likely be very time-consuming and a waste of your time. Eli C. Elizabeth had a daughter. That Sam never saw. Was also a farm supervisor. That's how your trying guy would take over at the start of '78. At a retirement party in November before spending the final month working on transition. Replaced Christine Farrow. Christine Farrow is probably a... Oh, Robertson. Okay. I am just still going to gonna add a random notes. Elizabeth. Highlight. Because there's an Elizabeth that worked with Sam. However, Joanna Robertson is no longer listed among secretaries, but a Joanna Fellows has been added. Joanna and Beth are no longer employed by Roottree. Christine Farrow is no longer... Christine... Oh my god. Oh my god, you fucking dogs. John Miller is no longer employed. Gwyneth has been hired. Beth Knox 50-year work anniversary. 26. Huh. Okay, so she's been working since basically the inception. Oh, how I know. Okay. Guy Hutchinson took over. A volatile period in company staffing. Many travel expenses were listed. Develop new 5 flavors. Guy replaces Zach. Okay, Edward Roottree, Elizabeth Gravenwork. Radford Tunes is now listed as office staff. Ah, funny. Albert and Fred Cross are no longer employed. Christine Garland. Beatrice Watts. Warren Schwartz are hired. Julian Doris May is no longer employed. Thomas Green, Michael Crane, Elizabeth and Jack Keatings. I remember this name. That's Gwyneth's husband. Okay. Okay, special services. Records. Wow, you like to party, you fucking dog. Volatility continuing, new players, Dungeons, Sarah on loan. Following changes are recorded. Terry O'Connor. Susan Ford has been moved to office staff. Douglas Rosenberg no longer. Edward Morrison are hired. Edward Morrison no longer. Oh, he really wants to promote this Zigua and Caviar. Died in 82, so the first few months of the year continue along with the same pattern. Changed when Ernie took over. Most of the extraneous expenses ended. All secretaries, most handpicked by Guy, were let go. Sam Madsen left Roottree in 84, so those are the last books you have access to. Sugar Plum canceled. Cancelled. 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 We've got a lot of names to investigate. What was it? Husband thinks he's a Roottree. Mary Beth. Affair with Miracle. Garen frickin' TU. Husband Stewart. Husband. Stewart. Clem. I see why it's so nebulous right here. Anyway, let's do some searching. Alright, Miracle Sr. is going on a tour and has been replaced. For a history, Otis living Roottrees reprises and retells an incredible true story. One of the famous 5 pieces, living life of wealth and luxury, but fortune nothing compared to the Almighty. The doctors determined he was destined to die young, but fate had other plans. He's lived a long and fruitful life. Now he's in his 70s. His age is beginning to make his life on the road more difficult, so he considers this your last chance before he settles down in Pennsylvania. In this intimate evening, Miracle will reminisce about his famous history. He'll discuss family saints and sinners, provide a unique perspective on one of the most noble families in the United States. Oh no, Psyduck has COVID. That's not fun. Learn what originally drove him away from his fortune into the arms of religion. And learn how his life has become more wealthy in spirit than it ever could from his inheritance. Also, this is churches will be appearing, and mentions tickets can be purchased by the local services. After any mentions about Miracle's news appearances. Okay. Clementine. Singer through then. Travel around performing songs at churches. Repertoire is a mix of religious and pop songs. Though she recorded a few records, they seem to have lost to time. Only one you find mention was a cover of He's Got the Whole World. One thing Mary Beth was known for was her adoptions. She's listed on many sites that mention adoption. And the history of adoption, she adopted 2 children, Stuart and Mark. Also spoke as an advocate for the benefits of adoption in front of the United States Congress in 49, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African American child to a white family in the United States. He was specifically there detailing her experience going through the system to adopt Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line on one of the adoption sites under unusual, other son was adopted under unusual circumstances. It is surfaced that Mary Beth had been divorced both times to her manager Sterling. Sterling Mallory Archer ascended her career with the religious audience. she had been catering to, and well, she performed occasionally since then, mostly faded. Died in blah of a stroke. Perhaps that is why this is sterling. Periodicals. Miracles Congregation, she is mentioned 2 times. Mary Beth Clementine with open arms. Church leaders was moved when he heard Mary's recordings of His Eye is on the Sparrow. And reached out personally. His Eye is on the Sparrow holds a special meaning to me. As you know, I've had difficulty upbringing. There's no secret about my own eyes. Have always been a source of struggle. The song is about overcoming sadness and hardships through Jesus. If God can find a way to watch over every sparrow, He can certainly watch over those made in His image. Family's fortune does me no good as a man of the Lord. It's much better spent spreading His word, and I felt a kinship with Mary Beth ever since I heard her voice. When I learned her personal story, I knew I had to help her whatever I could. The Bible's full of adoptions from Moses to Esther. I find spending your life taking care of those helpless to help themselves is incredibly noble. She and her son are welcome to stay in our guest home. Second visit was a few years later. In 53, article mentions that her first visit was a massive success, and at the insistence of Miracles Congregation, she returned for an encore performance. Mentions under usual circumstances her second son's adoption have prevented her from touring recently. It might be hard to find 9 months. It might be hard to cover up 9 months of pregnancy. Periodicals. Viewed and advertised many times in Music Monthly. Most popular recording was under the label New Edison. Had a positive view on her cover. I was Tony guitar, reviews and nothing about marriage. There was also some other releases that here's one of those, The Old Rugged Cross. Edison. Small record label in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. Sterling Edison. I'm getting very tired, and it's approaching 3 hours, so I may just call it here. So it's like she's changed her name. Duck, what do you say? Oh, you still want me to go back to Lauren. But, given the timeline and her 50 years at the company, I feel this is very positive. Given how the family tree is rocking out, and given how these pictures look like they're taken in the 50s, this is pretty good. I don't know about the rest of this. And there's quite a few here on Guy, but I have a bunch of names to go look through. Need to find a new picture for Zach. Need to find a new picture for Chris and Clark. These two should be my god. No, they're these guys. This is the fried eyes. Or this is. No, because they're still married. There are red herrings in here. There are actual red herrings in there. It warned me about that. But if there was anywhere that they would fit in, it could be over. It could be right here? No. Oh, me? Couldn't be. I'm going to love untangling this Elias tree, because that's going to be stupid funny. Okay. But this is Joanna Robertson because she changed her name to Fellows, so I assume that's her birth name. Mr. David right there. 100%. Anonymom is not on here, it was just mentioned. I very like this little update. I hope these people do well. But I'm tired. I need to take a shower and a nap before I go and get a haircut. And then I will return home and nap some more. I only had so much brain power to figure all of this out. I'm probably going to be doing alternating Mondays, Legos, and cooking. Just because I've got an ungodly amount of Legos to keep working on. It also might just be conducive to how my family is using that kitchen, because, well, the kitchen is it's the family kitchen. There's more than just me and the roommates now, so it's the entire family. And some people get hungry, some people gotta go to work or go get everything. It's like the front door to the garage is right there as well. So it's gonna be funny. But I already know what I'm gonna cook next, and I'm looking forward to it because it seems pretty fun. I also gotta lug up all of my equipment, which is why I started a little bit late. So I may have to figure out if my Surface or laptop can run OBS well enough to not have to keep lugging my big ass desktop up and down the stairs every single fucking time. Because back in the apartment, I just had to turn my computer desk, and right here was the kitchen. Such is life. See you on Monday for I will see you Friday. I will see you Friday for Twilight Legos. I will see you Saturday morning for Magic. And I will see you Saturday afternoon with Mr. Ducks, where we definitely do not press any buttons. Stay tuned for this weekend's words are hard when you don't have a brain. Stay tuned for this weekend's subathon, everyone. Thank you so much for your support all of this September. Show up, show out. Please don't force yourself to spend any money. But your support helps fund us and our shenanigans. I hope you all are enjoying The Rootttrees Are Dead. I know I am. I hope to use significantly less hints from now on, but I'm enjoying this. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon, night, morning, whatever time. And remember to hail Cargonia.
Hold on.
Land of stolen things, obey the quartermaster, unless seas a-ling. Miners don't die today. Cargo tanks push freight. Our enemies in disarray. All hail Cargonia.
Get back to work.